Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Let's continue. Honestly, I should have just been loaded in already. Uh, Still everything going alright. I just exited out of Shadow of the Tomb Raider to do my live streams. Uh, we've not had any crashes so far. We do have a prompt here that looks like 2 quests, and in the last episode, we saved this girl from being sacrificed, having her heart cut out and burned. And she's like, yeah, I knew that my father was going to sacrifice me, and that was our culture and my religion. And like, now I've murdered her father instead. And this is a main story quest, so even people that would have gotten the considerably worse experience following the main story quest would have seen this one, and it seems like it's going to continue the story after this point to another quest, so we should talk to her. There's also some jade we probably should go grab, even though we have way too much money, and frankly we are getting so close to getting 100% of everything as far as collectibles. We might as well just get all the collectibles in the game, or we're getting closer to that idea at least. Well,
what are you doing?
Maybe I have to hit the other prompt. Like, we're still getting these really long dramatic pauses, and this feels like this is just straight up a glitch.
I'm sure he's very proud of you.
So either they didn't record any lines of dialogue here.
Maybe I can help. Do you think your father would mind that?
Oh, so apparently I'm resetting the quest that has already been done. So it's just totally glitched. Everything is totally glitched here. Like, this is the dialogue for the beginning of the quest before she gets sacrificed, because in the middle of the quest,
how about
there's a
I
big
go
twist.
Study all the murals and then come back to you and we can discuss them?
Yeah, we went around, we studied the
I'm
murals,
Laura, by the way.
And then when we came back to report what we saw on the murals, she was about to be sacrificed. So yeah, despite seemingly having fixed the issue with, I hope there actually is jade here, and that I haven't just mined it all already. Looks to me like I probably have just mined it already. And maybe it'll come back later. But there's no prompt here. Alright. So yeah, despite the fact that I've fixed the RAM being too overclocked for my computer issue, which seems to have been the issue causing the crashes, although it really has only been a day or two since I've done that, so at any point more problems could present themselves. There is still just like considerably large amounts of other bugs in this game, and these are straight up just procedural programming bugs, things that RAM really could not have affected or been involved with. Like, I suppose if there was bad RAM and it triggered the settings wrong, maybe that could cause a corrupted save file, but I really don't suspect that that's the case. I just think this game is incredibly buggy, and very possibly this is a case where they should have taken some time away from making DLC content that they wanted to sell in favor of just having a more polished initial experience. We're almost to the maximum as far as skills being unlocked.
When the first Spanish exploration ships returned home with their holds full of gold, the news spread like wildfire, and the stories got more extravagant with each retelling. Rumors of the Golden City gave birth to countless expeditions to the New World.
At a certain level, I question if... Now, did I just pick up that document? No. So there's another document this way, higher up. So, something just hidden here? Well, this is weird. Yep. The DLC weapons, come to think of it, the reason why there isn't upgrades for those, I guess, becomes fairly obvious in that there's only enough room in this game to get so many resources to upgrade weapons. If DLC had added several other weapons, then I would have had to grind out several more. Maybe this is part of a cave section. Yeah, I would potentially have to just grind out several more hunting expeditions to get more hides to upgrade things. It's kind of crazy that I wouldn't have seen these monoliths.
Describe something nearby. A lone sentry stands guard over me and his harvest.
Okay. And you'd want to be able to do something like this all the time. Is just do these large jumps, this large kind of parkouring stuff. It does seem to me like I just picked up what was more of a generic regenerating supply cache, and that gave me XP to level up.
This'll be useful.
I suppose, though, you could also just give more resources overall. I need to actually find a base camp. So let's go back to the cave. And see, that's the thing that I think this game and a lot of modern games forget, is that I really would like to have video games and have areas where I could just jump and bunny hop and have fun here. And there's just been no desire to do this, or no reason to point you close to doing something like this, where you would try to get different angles and try and do some kind of jumps. And that just further highlights how the acrobatics of the old Lara Croft has been really destroyed. So yeah, like each of these DLC things, this one could have been upgraded. Let's see. But this one doesn't have an upgrade. This one does have an upgrade. This one does have an upgrade. I spent my extra money buying a bunch of panther or jaguar pelts, whichever it is. Let's see. These two guns, of that, only one could be upgraded. There is still, I suppose, a possibility that there's another city or another shopkeeper with a few more guns to buy. But yeah, I don't see any way that you could possibly actually have all of the weapons upgraded without just purchasing Jaguar belts, because that is the #1 material that is necessary. There are 2 more upgrades that require Jaguar pelts, which just really just highlights how the upgrade system is totally broken, because it's all about Jaguar pelts and salvage and nothing else. And really it's just about Jaguar pelts, because salvage you will get enough of. But if I bought a full stack of Jaguar pelts at the shopkeeper, which maybe I can't afford that, but I very possibly can even now, I think I would get fairly close to upgrading all the weapons with the exception of the bows and arrows. And then on the case of the bows and arrows, I might need a bit more focus. Now, doing these side missions are giving you more weapons too, so there is also this possibility that I would get yet another bow, and there's always a possibility of getting more outfits. Okay, I have a quest that I think I need to turn in.
Laura, I'm glad you're back safely. Quinty returned shortly after you left. In one piece, but empty-handed, I'm afraid.
He's safe. That's the important thing.
I wish we could say the same for Zan. Kukulkan curses his coronation, I swear it.
Zan? Is he the other man you sent out?
Yes, he was looking for the champion's bow. A group of hunters just pulled his body from the wilderness.
Uchu, I'm sorry about your friend. If there is some good news in all of this, I did find the Savior's amulet.
What? You did? Lara, that's incredible.
Here.
Thank you.
We'll probably just get a pantomime
Lara,
of handing it over.
I hate to ask you, but...
Although, in this case it
would
just
I go and
faded
get
to
the
black
champion's
instead of
bow?
her handing
It's a lot
the
to ask.
item.
This is the most difficult of the items to retrieve. Zan was one of our best.
May I ask what makes this bow so special?
Queen Unaratu's ancestors carved it from the first ceiba tree to grow in the wilderness outside the city. It has been handed down through generations. She bestowed it upon Sairi, Etzli's father, on their wedding day. It joins the 2 families together, but it was lost many years ago, taken by the Nahual.
Who are the
The
Nawa?
narwhal. That's someone who has the power to transform into an animal, right?
Yes, this one stalks the jungle outside the city. Envious, it tricks Sairi into giving it the bow. Etzli is the rightful heir of the champion's bow. Without it, he cannot be king.
Okay, point the way.
Thank you. You will find the entrance directly across from here, up the shore of the river.
Don't worry, I'll do my best to get the bow.
So we get another achievement there. Now we have a Enter the Wilderness side quest here, which just may very well be taking us back to a place we've already been, but whatever, you kind of have to do that on these DLC missions. What often seems to be the case is if you are doing a DLC mission and it takes you back to an area you've already been, the version of that area is different. There we had a little bit of faster movement by jumping on the rope slide. But arguably there should just be a whole bunch of those all over the place. It's slightly confusing. See, and here's another thing that's just going to give us experience, but it's not on the map as a collectible. We could have walked to the shopkeeper and bought some more panther things, by the way. As to whether these items are specifically items that are...
This must be the jungle entrance. Not very inviting, but I suspect that's the point.
Well, the thing is, the amulet and the bow feel like the kid should be recovering it, not Laura, as a rite of passage.
Just to the top of the path. If my father knew I was even this close to the wilderness, I wouldn't sit down for a week.
Yeah. It's weird to have extra characters in the hunting areas and not people. I apparently just got an achievement called Marksman from 20 headshots with the bow. What in the world? I almost certainly have done more than 20 headshots with the bow. I don't know where I'm supposed to go, but I guess it's this way.
This looks like a sacrificial altar.
So were we supposed to be finding other clues as I just ran past here? I could definitely get the feeling, certainly, that you would just say, I don't like this society, the Hidden City Society, as they are still performing these human sacrifices. I mean, that would be a tough pill to swallow, even for a researcher anthropologist. Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. Yeah, Indiana Jones was very accepting of most of the Indian cultures, but the human sacrifice part definitely went too far for him, particularly since they were trying to sacrifice
If it's
him.
anywhere, I'll bet the champion's bow is in there.
Yeah, it does just have this weird feeling where the amulet and champion's bow, as a rite of passage, should be collected by the boy, not Laura, and that the amulet and champion's bow would have been placed in places where there was just tighter control for him to go and find it, that the items wouldn't just be in random places. Now, they've given an alternate explanation that is fair enough to say this bow was stolen by a shape-shifting animal, which sounds like nonsense to explain that a bear or something stole it. Let's see. See, I think we're just gonna come in here and some kind of bear or wolf is going to attack. Yeah, I have no idea. It looks like it's a panther in armor. And then immediately it's just gonna have us go left stick, and then hit Y to knock it off. Alright. So it looks to me like it's So I just cheated there and fast pulled a bunch of arrows on it. I also shot him with a poison arrow. Seems pretty obvious somebody put this armor on it though. Like, no big revelation there that it was a panther under the armor. So we had a fight that could have been a little bit longer in that section.
Alright, let's get this bow back to Uchu.
It definitely feels like you're supposed to respect this panther. That being said, it feels to me like I should be able to skin this panther like any other let's see, like any other animal. Now what's weird about this is I just kind of feel like this entire hut was either closed off or there was just kind of no reason to walk in this section. Which that does make me wonder if here in the map I never really did visit everything. And see that survival cache that I just marked, I think is way down there and there's really no way to reach it. Definitely would argue that there's a case where there's more than enough XP in the game, probably too much XP in the game. But not really more than enough like not enough resources per se. It definitely feels like what should have happened there, though, is that if we were over here fighting this, the panther should have run away and like hid in one corner and you would have had to chase after it and then run around in a circle, and there would have been at least 3 phases to the fight, or he would just have more health to be more cinematic about the whole thing. Those kids just disappeared, so I don't know if they were supposed to play any bigger role in that story or not. And finding the investigation, the handcuffs on the sacrificial altar, which metal handcuffs seem like technology you really wouldn't see existing in the hidden city. So we're back to turn in this mission. Yeah, finding that element didn't really lead to anything. Yeah, jumping through all the air or jumping on the rooftops of these buildings is not really practically possible, nor is it a shortcut, faster way to do things.
How do you do?
I have much to trade.
It really sucks
I'm always
that
ready to trade.
you don't have a way to skip this initial conversation here.
See anything that you like?
It isn't that long, in fairness, but
Very good.
okay. Empress Jade hides. We're at 35 there. Jaguar hide. We are at none.
The gods favor us both.
And then salvage. Apparently I only have enough to buy one salvage anyways.
Here you go.
And guess I could sell
The gods
this,
favor us both.
this,
Very good.
this,
Here you go.
this,
Very good.
and
The
this.
gods favor us both. Very good.
That's still not enough to fully fill our resources up. But I suspect
I
that's
await your
good enough.
return.
Meanwhile, is there any other collectible to try and find? Well, you'd think that potentially this would have unloaded an area and reloaded an area, but it probably really hasn't. So if this document is supposed to be there, it probably is still not there. There's undoubtedly no real benefit, though, for doing these side quests other than just seeing these juicy story parts of the game. Like, there's obviously not a level where it's going to make the final battle strong, with a different outcome or anything like that. Okay. So the document is just here. I just missed it.
The cult of Kukulkan has gone too far. The time to strike is now. They push, and all we do is take another step back. If Unuratu is unwilling to do anything, then we should move forward without her.
You're still getting a lot of dialogue, though, where it's mentioning Unuratu, who's storyline-wise now dead. I wish the animation for picking up things was faster. It's where you could really get more, make this more of a video game by just running by something, hitting X, and collecting it.
It's dead.
Tell me, what shape did it take?
It was a jaguar.
Ah, the most powerful of its forms. It must have seen you as a formidable foe.
Uchu, how long has this Noal been in the jungle?
As children, there were always stories to keep us from straying beyond the bounds of Paititi. But since Amaru took power, the Nahual has been more active.
You believe Amaru commands the Noal?
Yes, to keep his hands on our throats, but no longer. You have done a great thing for the future of Paititi, Lara. I would be honored if you would join us for the ceremony of kings.
The honor would be mine.
Here, I have something for you. This is from the armor Etzli's father, Sairi, wore. It is a symbol of your bravery. I would like you to have it.
Thank you, Uchu.
So we're gonna get a whole ceremony now after doing this quest.
The sound of the king's horn
But you can
has
see
called you all to bear witness
there's a
to
lot of
new
people in this
beginning.
cutscene. This
Welcome
is something they would have
to the
almost certainly
ceremony
been
of kings.
proud of,
Etzli,
and yet
son
it's
of
very
Unuratu,
missable.
son of Cyri, step forth. Within the Savior's amulet is the wisdom of your ancestors. Listen to it, so that you will enjoy.
Now, I wonder if this
and mercy
priestess
in all
would have been the
judgments.
mother if she wasn't dead,
Within
or if the
champion's
mother
bow is the
wouldn't
strength of
just
your
be
ancestors.
standing behind in the
Respect it,
background if she
so that
wasn't
you will
dead,
enjoy responsibility and fairness in leadership.
or standing in the crowd.
Finally, within you, young Etzli, is the future. Infuse your role as king with action. Create hope. Create love. Not by passively
This
waiting
priestess
for grace to
lady
come down
has
from
quite a
on
few
high, but by
face
doing
piercings,
what you can to make grace happen yourself.
which definitely stands out considering we don't see any other face piercings as far as nose or lips or chin
It is with
on any
great
of the other
pride
characters.
that I introduce to you Etzli, son of Unuratu, son of Cyri, and your king.
You have two ladies in the exact same outfit back to back in the center of the foreground there. So we've got a new tunic item and the mission is complete. That was a very video game sped up ceremony, perhaps not too sped up and not really impactful. You would have, if it were a
I
real
can't believe
ceremony,
how
it
much
would be
Etzli has
super
grown.
long and too long, but if it were just a little bit more long and told some story, or it just had a few more lines of dialogue spoken, it'd feel impactful. It'd feel impactful if the boy actually spoke. So Yahweh's battle tunic, we don't have the lower greaves on that, but we do have mantle of the sixth guy, and then these two look like they're matching, but I guess not. This says vest of the Empress Jaguar. This says boots of the Empress Jaguar. No, so that is right. So these three are lined up. These are lined up. The way this is going is terrible. When I press down, it's going down and to the right. I don't know why. 9 strides. Yeah. Manko's tunic, Manko's boots. 9 strides. 9 strides. So we're missing another top here. Maybe this is a case where going downward links to the thing that it should link to, but that's not working either. Man, maybe it's a case with the... No, even on the D-pad where you only have up, right, down, and left, instead of using the left stick, it is going down to an angle for no good reason. It's just glitchy. Well, regardless, there are obviously several more things I can upgrade and a couple more outfits to find through doing side quests. And we are getting some bit of story. That story was not DLC story, so that is probably in part why it doesn't come off particularly good. Although, in all fairness, that would have been a much more impactful side quest had I done it all in a row and it just locked me into a narrative situation. For every gun we have now, everything is upgraded. So this would just be the bows now. I'm just trying to see, with the amount of resources, can we get a lot of upgrades done? So, yeah. Again, we're low on Jaguar stuff. But since all the weapons are equipped, so we have the AB-45 with the flare, the pistol sight, and the suppressor, which would upgrade everything except for damage. Would a higher fire rate perhaps account for the damage? Almost certainly would, for how much that would go up. So let's go with that. Then we could increase the ammo capacity with the C&T S55, or we could decrease a lot and just go with a single damage thing. But even at this, if the damage was at the maximum, I don't think you're actually going to be able to hit people in the head and kill them in one shot with a handgun, which really just highlights how the handgun itself is fairly useless. We could have a higher reload speed for this DLC weapon, or we could slightly increase the damage and lower the reload speed and get like one more bullet, which, if anything, that really just highlights how this K&H cap DLC weapon is not significantly different enough from your original AB-45, which you could have really had the game just give you the AB-45. And you really can't select based on the look of the gun, where honestly that would have been the smarter move, is to separate out the skins and the appearance of the gun from the stats of the gun and eliminate the stats of the gun completely and just have it be dress up without it changing anything, and then your guns would just upgrade through the narrative and through the story. Okay, rate of fire with more damage and more reload speed but less ammo capacity is probably the right move there. Then more damage with a slightly lower accuracy but more rate of fire. So again, we're just on the default first weapon, the Vicar Mark II. And then shotgun would extra accuracy and then increased rate of fire versus higher rate of fire versus everything being worse. The Bishop 600 here, notably, just completely getting outclassed by the Whispering Scourge, which really shouldn't work out that way. So yeah, I don't know if you ever really needed a high rate of fire for the shotgun. The stat doesn't make a lot of sense. It would make a lot more sense to have a distance stat. So I guess we'll just stick with the DLC shotgun here. There's only skin differences here based on this. And you know what? I'm going to turn on these default climbing axe instead of these other skin changes and see if that creates any visual glitching or improvement on the visual glitching as far as the way the game goes when we're climbing and rappelling. So we now have Sip's Quiver unlocked through a challenge tomb, so we need to find this challenge tomb and this challenge tomb, and we can go ahead and unlock this skill, which then only leaves us this skill, and then it's just going to be putting skills into improving your medicine usage, which I don't even use the herbal medicine. I don't know if medicine's even the right word to use there.
I can't believe how much Etzli has grown in such a short time.
So, since we're here, let's see if we can. Well, I guess what I need to do is come out of this and save. And let's zoom out on the map. There is a side quest to do here, but let's take a break. We've spent a lot of time doing side quests here. Let's see if we can find the treasure chest. Like, we know that there is a thing here, but I don't know if I can go backwards. So this Cozumel Cliffs as the fast travel location is probably about as far as you can go. I suspect you actually can't get back into this Cozumel section. Right. And by fast traveling, with that awkward pause, where it just freezes the screen and all the effects and then fades to black, when really it should be fading to black before it pauses any of the animations, although it's probably intentionally trying to speed up the experience as quickly as possible. So there's one treasure chest, and we're pretty much just gonna have to find it. I'm not gonna get any help. This will be a nice throwback to see just how much has changed in our movement abilities. But it does definitely feel like this Cosmo section really is just a small subsection of places you can revisit. And that's it. And that does definitely come off as this was something that was mandated by the publisher, that you would be able to revisit each location through fast travel, or it was mandated by a just got some achievement, underwater archaeology. Well, I was expecting more there.
A silver square. What could that mean?
So we know that that's the silver box. And that completes Exodus. Which, completing the story doesn't seem to be really giving us XP. Okay. We gotta figure out the way up. We're back to a fairly dark area, even with the flashlight enabled. Then we didn't have the reinforced knife, so the only way you could have collected this would have been through revisiting the area to get a large amount of jade. I suppose this might be an attempt at a new game plus level of content. We are left to our own devices, though, as far as just where the treasure chest could be. Noticeably, this is a fairly empty area, so it would make some sense that it would be over here. But I'm not sure what visiting that area is even going to be like if we can reach it. You could definitely try to rappel. There's some weird sound effects playing, certainly. And you have that awkward long jumps. They did get better at that. Yeah, so this would have been probably the first place you would have seen a tether. And for the third game in the series, it's just unnecessary. Like, the tether could have already been there. They could have just said, you can climb ropes. This is also certainly the danger, though, that I have to solve this whole puzzle again. Yeah, the puzzle does seem to be reset. Can I pull this? I may not be able to go any further. It may just be broken. Or I may not need to really go further. Because this was stuck here before anyways. Yeah. I don't need to resolve the puzzle. I just need to jump here and jump there. It's very questionable is just where would the treasure chest be? Could it be a much lower section? Or is it a much further section? And you would think that this would be it, that the treasure chest whoops. That seems like that's just straight up loading me into another area, but it isn't. It's just having me die without showing me a death sequence. But you have this whole caved in part, and I really do think that that was the exit. We got the knife and we got the cutscene. And at least we died that time. So this may very well be a case where they never expected you to reach this location, and I have now screwed myself because I can't leave, which means I would need to reload not only a checkpoint but maybe a save. My only thought is maybe we could make a very far jump this way. And then work our way back downward. And I guess I kind of do need money, so finding this money is not really objectionable. We are finding supply caches, but these supply caches don't seem like they're getting marked on the map like there's something special. This is a great point where it highlights how your flashlight does a really bad job of lighting up areas. So, yeah, you can't go any further in that direction, which means I need to go back this way. Not directly into a spike pit, but yeah. If anything, this is just gonna highlight. That was a very wonky jump. How frustrating it could be to run back through an area when it's just not really designed for that level of travel. I thought this would have been a watery entrance, that you would have gotten in the water and you would have been able to dive, but I actually can't. So that explains why you needed this interconnecting section with the reinforced knife. So this pretty much means that the treasure chest has to be somewhere here. It could be in this room, or it can be a little bit further back. But that is the maximum distance it can really reside. Maybe there's an underwater section over here I missed. Maybe there's an underwater section over here. Yes, it is. So we have a treasure chest from the looks of it. And yet, I'm not getting the prompt. Do I not have lockpicks? Do you have... No, I don't think you have to buy more lockpicks. This definitely looks like a treasure chest. Alright, let's assume that that isn't the treasure chest. And they just used the visual texture of a treasure chest. See if we can find a different treasure chest. This part's caved in. Double check the map. Looking all around. It should stick out like a sore thumb as far as the survival instincts. Honestly, it should be very visible through like a grate or something. Just so the game would have informed you that treasure chests exist and are a thing overall. But also, I would have to admit that had in this early section they shown me a treasure chest, I would have obsessed and been upset about the fact that I didn't collect that treasure chest for hours and hours. It is a very, very long time from this point that you actually are capable of opening a treasure chest. There isn't something more up there. Suppose there could be a treasure chest just swinging on a rope, but I think I would have seen that. So that makes me think I have to go back this way. Of course I could be wrong. There could just be also like a post-game section that you end up going back and finding some treasure chest. After you've finished the whole narrative and story. You're just wading in water here, you can't dive. You don't have the flashlights on here. There could be a treasure chest hanging from a rope in this section. Could be that the treasure is just buried on the ground somewhere. Yeah, but seemingly you can't fast travel to this section. And you can't fast travel to this section. And you can't get to this section. And you would think that there would be a map. The treasure chests are what we're looking for as far as looking at the legend. Maybe it's just glitched overall. What I guess I would do here is I would look for a walkthrough would be the next thing to do. So do we want to go to Kuala Lumpur first, or do we want to try and go through this in the order of the story? I think I want to do this just kind of in the order of the story. So let's just fast travel back this way. It's weird that there are two different types of maps though. There's the map when you're fast traveling, and then there's the map here. So we're looking for Orphandola nests and We're looking for this tomb and this mural. There's nothing about this crypt. There's this treasure chest, which maybe that treasure chest overlaps. And then there's this relic. And then we'll have to just run back around through all of this. I'm not going to really fight anything big. So. Anywhere we see something like this, if we can see a white side here, should try and get on that and see if we find a nest. Yep. At the very least, that'll give us the flower plant picker. These frogs, we still have yet to figure out what the deal with the frogs are. I would have thought they would have given me some kind of poison or something, but seem not to do anything. Now the worst thing you could possibly do is go into a crypt like this, and this should be new content. It's a challenge tomb. But yeah, go into this new content and effectively screw up. I'm gonna assume that I was supposed to fall there. But yeah, to potentially miss the thing, the collectibles you're looking for, and then have to go back would rather suck. We'll run into more of these murals, the last bits of them.
A depiction of Apuk, god of death and ruler of Mitnell, the ninth and most horrible level of the Maya version of hell. One thing Apuk enjoyed doing was dressing in putrefying flesh and visiting the surface to prey upon the living. According to legend, the only way to save yourself from him was to scream and yell like you were in unbearable agony. He'd assume you were already being tortured by one of his minions and leave you alone. How appropriate that his harbinger demon was a screech owl named Muon.
So a lot of dialogue and story there. Yeah, one thing I'd say about that, we're getting skills for, I guess, completing stories, or for just collecting the elements that complete stories. The Ascension ritual for the boy also definitely comes off as just a general depiction of something that probably had been lost to history, if I was to guess. And there probably is some actual history to an Ascension ritual, but in that history, I feel like I've already been here. I guess I have. It says the tomb has been done. Yeah, because it seems like you would have jumped here, pulled this down, come here, opened this up, and this would have opened up an area. And in this area, I guess we'll just run through this area again. Is the bridge not going to snap? So yeah, it's possible that the historical people giving direction as to how things would happen as far as an ascension ritual said, we don't have much information about what this really would be or how it would be performed, so we'd suggest you just keep it short and simple. Which in all fairness, if you saw a description saying somebody got married, that isn't giving you a lot of details as far as what your particular marriage ritual would be in any specific society. Alright, yeah, we definitely have done this already. I don't know why I still have this OCD desire to engage with it further and collect these trees and wood. We don't quite have all of the upgrades, so notice you cannot jump. I'm tapping the A button now while climbing, so there's just no video game fast jump. Work your way up to a higher position. Let's see, this would have been to this, and then we would have gotten the thing. Suppose if you revisit areas like this, you can potentially get some more gold. Again, why not just have the rope here? Why not get rid of the speed bump and let you exit quickly? I could see maybe an argument that the speed bump is there intentionally so you don't just leave an area very quickly, but I don't think that that's particularly the best solution either. And here you have the rope already set up, so you can leave quickly and slide and just be out of it. I don't know if I'm supposed to jump and what, like climb down? Sure seems like there's nothing. It's so dark I can't even see if there's a path that way. And this has weirdly put me very far back. See, I don't even think I actually need to go through the whole process. Maybe I do. Is there not a way to reach it just by going here? Very colorful plants. Kind of visually distracting considering how much of this game is not colorful. Oh, no. So the move was to come up here to gain height. To come up here. And this almost certainly is just taking us all back to where we were. Okay. We want to get to this treasure chest next. But we gotta figure out how to leave this area first. Well, it dropped me here. And I can't really go that way, so I basically have to go this way. Now noticeably, when you're grappling downward, you really can't look around and then... Oh, shoot. Yeah, and notice how your senses mode doesn't really make your vision any better underwater. Come on. Is there no way back up? I think we'll just fast travel. There's just a campfire here. Yeah, you definitely would like an assistive mode for every game, really, where the water when underwater would be considerably more lit up. It's just too hard to see too often. I just don't care about boars or whatever those are. We'll take 2 salvage, which is barely anything. And we're looking for nests. And that's just an orange canister, which noticeably they never use that color and that texture ever again, which smart move, really. So yeah, we're looking for nets. There's another challenge and another 100 XP done. I just basically got lucky. And all this salvage is basically just getting reset. And these fat and oil and hides without the other outfits are not super useful. You don't need to go back here. I do seem like I've just missed a tomb somehow. Like, this is a challenge tomb by the seams of it, and then this is just a tomb, or maybe it's just not marked off. Noticeably, this symbol, it says at the top left we've gotten 2 of 2 of that, so I guess I am just gonna have to ignore whatever reason this is lit up as a tomb, because that again just feels like a visual glitch. Then as far as challenges go, still looking for flower picking as the last challenge. It feels like these insects were either crawling around all the time and you just very late in the game. Well, no, that flower that was there before is now gone. Yep. It seems like throughout the entirety of the game, these insects were crawling around and you were just ignoring them in the same way that the frogs are crawling around. And there seems to be nothing we can do with the frogs at the moment. I still feel like it's crazy that you just can't do that and kill animals. Now, the way to get down to this... Yeah, you would think that doing that would auto lock onto the rabbits. Well, that's an interesting challenge. Like, we need to climb down. There's a flower. So, there's a flower. Okay. In that challenge, it seems like that was just a case where you had to pick 5 flowers from any random 5 locations, and not specifically 5 flowers from specifically 5 locations. Let's go down this way and see if we can find the other relic. It's not down here. And there's no cave here. I don't think you're supposed to jump into the water or anything like that. You can see little red dots of hearts of animals. We can definitely hear animals. There is some white there, so I guess what you're supposed to do is climb up here and jump to that. Okay. And explains why I didn't find it before.
In the early 19th century, this was used to measure the angle between an astronomical object and the horizon for the purposes of celestial navigation.
So basically this is the only modern model of anything we've gotten for the most part. Everything else has been ancient looking, or at least
There's an inscription here.
South American.
To my son Jack.
Cultural.
May you never lose sight of your horizons.
Yeah. They tried to hint at the idea that there would have been more conquistador type characters that would have run around. You can really just transverse quite a bit, which this only is showing how like messed up the hidden city is as far as transversal goes. too far from where we wanted to be. These animals basically only run away from you after you pull the bow on them. But yeah, I definitely feel like had there been several, maybe one or two more stories of conquerors, wow, so I just had to hit B and then hit X. It's not really even a case that there needed to be more groups of conquistadors showing up. There just needed to be a better storytelling, more full story aspect around the idea that yes, there are several conquistador type people who every few decades or every few years were trying to find the hidden city or trying to find just gold in general and threatening the solitude of the hidden city.
This polished piece of silver is lined with gold and inlaid with turquoise gems. It appears to be a decorative mirror of sorts.
What are we supposed to be finding?
An ornate filigree depicting Eshel is carved onto its backside.
See, that's part of the thing about the whole time travel mechanic that I was really hoping to see in this game, and now I've pretty much given up on the thought that that's going to happen. If it does happen, it's going to happen in a very minor aspect and way that won't be very satisfactory. But I was hoping that if we got to an ancient version of the hidden city, it would be this incredibly ornate, made out of gold city. And time travel really doesn't have to be involved in that. The hidden city could have just been incredibly ornate and covered in gold in general. That would have worked just as well. So now it's going to be a bit of a jog to get to the next section. And we can try and speed it up as much as possible. But there is also just that possibility that there is a challenge that hasn't been found. And that is certainly another factor as we're trying to fill out as many challenges as possible just to try and fill out all of this. And as we collect more things, we're also filling out these quests just to get a green check mark more than anything. Now, noticeably, guess I have to run around here. If I am capable of getting like all the skills and unlocking everything, then it probably wouldn't move me any further down the path of like wanting to give up on this. Headshot. 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 Game's not really giving me headshot bonuses. They really didn't do anything with these monkeys. You can see them glitching their way through the wood. But yeah, taking out this whole potential tribe of monkeys definitely opens you up to a few hundred extra XP, all for just the price of wood and feathers, which are fairly prominent in this area. I don't think these guys are respawning. And I guess maybe this is their howling as a way of indicating that there still are some around. And I'm really just getting my traditional 2 hides off of killing these, so it's not like they're that useful to actually hunt, but they're good enough. Alright, well, moving forward to the perhaps these howler monkeys were designed in a way to give you kind of an audio indicating of 3D surround sound audio with the different audio settings of low dynamic range or high dynamic range. Suppose there might be some logic to them. These to that idea of this was supposed to give you that surround sound feeling that almost certainly nobody has on their PC. It'd be nice if PCs could be cheap enough, and surround sound systems in particular themselves should be a lot cheaper, instead of being just expensive audiophile type equipment. But it's just not the case. And even in QA, when you're thinking about how would they test the making of a video game, would it be really reasonable to have every single QA tester in a room with a 7.1 surround sound that is going to have to be somewhat soundproofed to the room next to it for the next QA tester doing 7.1 surround sound? Or does it just make a lot more sense for every QA tester to have headphones on and sit in a cubicle next to the next person? And if that's the way the game is being tested, is with headphones on in cubicles next to each other, then how can you possibly hope to achieve a very high level of quality in your surround sound audio without, you know, testing it and making sure the quality is good? And even if you did go that extra mile and had surround sound rooms for all the QA testers, it still doesn't really solve the problem of surround sound never just being adopted. Part of this is definitely a case where the cost of a surround sound system isn't just a physical cost of money, it is also a cost of effort and wiring. Like, it is extra work to run wires to the back side of a room and install a 5.1 surround system, have wires on the side. It's extra work certainly to install speakers into a wall on some kind of mount, or on bookshelves, or have extra bookshelves to put them on top of.
The jungle is angry and the moon is
If we could get to wireless
the
speakers,
human imagination wanders
that
endlessly
fixes
in
some
the
of it, but they
darkness
have to also be
I can hear the
battery
jungle's
run
breath
wireless speakers,
ruffling
because
behind my ears.
you can't
Its
have
low
wireless
growl
speakers
shaking
with
the very ground we lay on.
in
Its
places
manic
where
energy
power plugs are
rustling through the
unlikely to
trees
be.
above. Rest has become the lead on our search, finding us at the most inopportune time. I have caught Father dozing off mid-step, and his hand barely clutching
This
his
is
walking
another one
stick.
of Jack's
We have
journals,
run
out of
food
order.
and are sustained almost entirely by gathered berries and rainwater.
It's kind of the exact
Both of
same
us are
thing,
far too
each
unyielding to
journal
give up.
entry,
I fear the very stubbornness that led
because
us to
they
this
are
point
not
may
expecting
also be
you to
that
get
which
them in
leads us
order.
to our early graves.
But yeah, it definitely makes a lot of sense that you just shouldn't get any of the story until you have all the collectibles, or perhaps better, you always get the story in a chronological order, regardless of which ones you collect. Okay, so the thing we totally missed is over there, which indicates to me I needed to have come over here. Yeah, I suppose I have seen some technology that could at some point actually be useful, where laser light is going to, like, solar sensors and powering very efficient devices that don't need that much power, or something like that. I think it is actually closer to very high powerful radio waves are being sent, like microwaves, to receivers in a very precise manner. And so I guess if that technology really could be perfected, which is, I think, a big if, maybe then you could have wireless speakers that also had wireless power. Otherwise, we really don't have wireless power as an option, unfortunately. If we did have wireless power as an option, for a lot of devices would be more practical, but surround sound speakers certainly would be more practical. If I could just do a single screw in a wall, or even a double-sided sticky tape to put a speaker on the wall and it wouldn't shake itself off after a few months, and then have a surround sound set up around that, that would be very nice. But since none of that really can happen, the thing that mostly happens is, at best, you have people with sound bars, which is at least a step in the somewhat right direction as far as adding more quality to your... This is ridiculous. So was I supposed to slide and then jump to the right? Or is this the exit? Let's assume that you're not supposed to slide and then have jump to the right. Also, it doesn't seem like there's a way to get anything here. The water here is shallow, so it's not like I can dive or anything. So I'm just going to assume that's the exit and move on with this challenge tomb. This challenge tomb is probably fairly simplistic, since it's something we're supposed to have found earlier. Yeah. And at a certain level, to kind of wrap up a rant here, video games are just not likely to be the only thing or the sole thing to push people into surround sound. I think people just generally don't care about audio enough for surround sound. It would have made more sense even when this game
Within lies Rally
came
Rimmer,
out
friend,
for
1925.
this to have been
There's a little more.
somehow designed to work with like Apple AirPods, which I guess Apple AirPods really only work just like Bluetooth AirPods.
Beware. Traps ahead.
So we had to zoom in to read beware traps ahead. Yeah.
No one's been through here in years.
At a certain level, if video games were going to try to increase the adoption rate of surround sound, it would have to be consoles, and probably like Nintendo. Somebody trying to get kids into surround sound, which I'm sure parents wouldn't be very happy about that. Now up to 81%.
May Remax be the first voice we hear in the afterlife, and may her stories comfort us.
There is a decent chance for the next PlayStation or Xbox, after the Series X and the PlayStation 5, that there would be some kind of central speaker built into it that had a Alexa-like device, voice assistant type device built in, and that you could talk to and it would hear you, and it would also play music in that way. If they went that route, then it wouldn't be too crazy for there to be even more accessory speakers with that, which would turn you from like a stereo setup to a stereo with a center channel setup. Add a couple more and you could get to a 5.1 setup, which getting people even to adopt 5.1 as standard would be kind of interesting. You could potentially have side speakers or back speakers. 5.1 really you should be side speakers with really long cords for both the connection and the power. Or here's that trap. This is the second time we've seen this trap, except for it's incredibly dark right now. You know what? Part of the reason why it's so dark is I've got the lights on in my room, and so let me turn those off. That helps a little bit. Feels like there should be more than just one trap.
This skull is deformed, flatter and longer than what we consider normal. Some people believe this is evidence the Inca were contacted by extraterrestrials, but it's more likely the result of hair binding. a human practice of deformation so ancient it predates written history.
Weirdly, there's a hole in the back of his
It
head.
also has evidence of trepanation, a medical procedure in which a hole is carved in the skull.
How do you know that was done like pre-mortem? In the sense that maybe they just put a hole in his skull to suck his brains out when they mummified him and cleaned out the skull. You'd have to have some medical expertise to be able to show some healing to assume that trepanation is what was going on. Could be something completely different too. It could just be a war wound.
This is the way out. And here I thought this would be simple.
So it's moving the entire platform and the thing, the crypt, upward, which would be helpful to explain how any of this works, or maybe just don't explain how any of it works and then don't explain how it worked with the wind devices later on in the game. Whoops. Map updated, point of interest for sarcophagus. At one point I read the map and it said arcophagus. I missed the S. I don't know if it was being shown on the map and I just didn't read it. But yeah. Definitely makes more sense if it's a sarcophagus and not some word I've never heard of. Okay. And if you just aren't going in the sense mode, I guess it would be fairly easy to miss the trap. And they always want to trigger the trap regardless of whether you're anywhere close. This looks like that would be gold, but it isn't. If anything, this just is highlighting how few traps actually exist. Now, do I get XP when I disarm a trap? No. Weird. You'd think you would. You'd think you'd get like 5 XP at least.
I should be able to reach the sarcophagus now. Shit, I'll have to keep climbing.
Once again, seems to be a case where perhaps they had Lara Croft cussing a lot more with a lot more variety, and maybe the publisher said she can only use the S word, and then their response to that direction was to literally have her just say the S word far too often. Even if it was half the S word and then half just crap. I am confused as to what I'm doing wrong here. Once again, we have a climbing section not telegraphing it well enough. Whether in video games or any other form of art or just writing or actual conversation, when you have a character cussing a lot, it almost universally comes off as just someone is not very intelligent and doesn't have a interesting. I don't think I was actually supposed to drop down. I was supposed to just climb across. Even though the white line was indicating that I should fall downward. And yeah, you definitely don't want to have the feeling that Lara Croft is unintelligent. It doesn't make her a better character if she's just cussing over the place. Okay. There's still a document on the other side of this. And it looks to me like there's something more to this puzzle as far as grabbing the counterweight. I definitely get the idea of her being like highly emotional in some places and that justifying the cussing, but just a minor inconvenience is not enough to justify the cussing. Plus, this is really a game that
begged for his life to be spared.
probably could have been
the Spanish crown
more
aroma
PG-13.
3x6 varas to be filled once over with gold and twice with silver. The crown, with great and undue benevolence, accepted this offer. Within 2 months, the ransom had been paid. The idolater, however, could not be trusted. When the cursed plans of his general surprise attack were exposed, Atahualpa fell to his knees, begging for mercy. His fate would be decided by fair trial, as the right of any man in the Spanish Empire. He was found guilty and sentenced to die, but before the execution he accepted the Lord and will be welcomed in the heavens above. Excerpt from an objective account of Pizarro in Peru by Ochoa Aceves.
I'm not sure if objective is the right term to use there, but whatever. So they took the king's ransom and then attacked anyways, from the sounds of it. Although maybe I'm not following the story greatly. You can jump on top of the crypts. Doesn't do anything. Okay. So that was just a fast travel to exit quicker. Shortcut. Which this does indicate that to get to this survival cache is to do something different. Not connected to the tomb. Yeah. And not to get into too big of a rant in it. No, she doesn't say amazing much. For what should be an adventure story, an adventure game. Amazing as a phrase potentially should be heard as much as the S word should be heard. It's not like I'm a prude or anything and care if they cuss or not, but it just doesn't make Lara Croft as a character a better character. Whereas, I guess if you were talking about a gangster bad guy character, then cussing makes a lot of sense. Mobsters, something like that. Okay, so we jump here. Whoops. Could there possibly be another way to reach that section? You're just really getting a lot of floating here. this really is the way to do this, it is oddly out of place. Because we've just never done anything like this before. Where we make a jump and then we slide and then we have to slide. Yeah, I guess I just had to jump and kind of push to the left. That's weird. This does put us in a weird situation in general, where we're gonna have to just like fast travel. We're gonna have to run to this base camp. We've missed something though. We've missed this relic. After that, we're done. Okay. So now it's a matter of figuring out the path. It definitely has areas here that feel like they could have been sections where enemies would show up and you'd have to hunt them. Although hunting humans, it's funny, this campfire's not even mentioned. Hunting humans, not really what you would want to do in that section yet. What did we just get new for that challenge tomb? Doesn't seem to be marked here. There should be something with a like white dot around it. And it didn't happen. So I must have gotten an item of inventory then, otherwise. Yeah. Yeah, that's must have been what I did. Okay. Am I supposed to be really looking for something here? Bonus XP while hunting. Additional hide and fat while hunting. Yeah, that would be your default setup. And then see if we've got any more resources we can spend. Skill point. 1 skill point to spend. But I don't think anything here actually costs 1 skill point, so what's the point of the game mentioning that? It still would be quite a journey. Yeah. It's not just going to be a walk in the park to get enough levels to unlock the last few skills. As far as achievements go too, I suspect there is very likely achievements here that are tied to multiplayer, with multiplayer being turned off. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a 0 chance of me getting all the achievements. It looks to me like there's probably another 40 plus achievements. I have 49 and it looks like there are 99 achievements, which, unless that meant that there was a lot of achievements that unlock when you have 100% of everything. I would assume that there's just some Challenge Tomb DLC stuff. And as it is, even if all of the achievements could be accomplished by some single player element. Am I not supposed to shimmy against this wall? Yeah, noticeably this game doesn't have shimmying against the wall. Instead it has climbing against the wall like this. Which previous Tomb Raider games did have shimmying against the wall, and it would be something different to do at least. If you could have half of your sections be shimmying and half of your sections be climbing. Of course that complicates the game somewhat. Yeah, let's risk dying and just jump. We ran through that section fairly quickly. Remember that section was with Jonah and really co-op and giving you a really bad impression of what the game actually would be, because after this initial part where you reach Kuala Lumpur, and I guess cinematically I was supposed to walk here and see Kuala Lumpur, and I think this was a point where I said, where he mentioned Kuala Lumpur, and I was just like looking over here and I'm going, I don't see anything Kuala Lumpur. I don't think it took control away and showed me this, which it definitely should have. So now we get 3 hides and fats from these corpses. And the item was just sitting there. I just walked past it. I was definitely not playing particularly thoroughly at the beginning of the game, which is normal.
Whatever weapon these were attached to has rusted away in the jungle's humidity. There's something etched on them. Can barely make it out.
So
P.H. Percy Fawcett. But we must be thousands of kilometers from his last known position.
why did this work, by the way? Why is that the angle we were looking for? It should have been somewhere else. Right there. That should have been the part that revealed it. And yet, I guess maybe I looked through it and that counted. Which I guess that really just highlights how their whole system is not particularly well polished. Okay. So that means there's one more supply cache that we have missed. And yet it's not marked on the map. So I guess we're probably just gonna walk to Kuala Lumpur. I mean, you would think that the archivist maps would show you everything on the map. I can't zoom in anymore, so there should be a marker for a supply cache. Zooming out is, I think, kind of unlikely to be helpful. So you have up until this part is where the line is. There could be that Kuala Lumpur gives us a quest to go back here. Like this DLC quest giver here could send us back in this general direction. but otherwise, yeah, there's not much else I can do. This fire camp is lit up like all the other fire camps are, but the tomb here is not lit up. Although maybe that is an indicator of where to check. That maybe there's a survival cache right on top of that icon, which if you got really desperate, maybe that's what you would have to do, is just go back to every other place there's an icon and check the second time. Let's see. Other things to do potentially are to just make sure you investigate. I don't know where I'm going. I don't remember crawling through a section like this either. It's different, I'll grant you that. Crawling through vines and seeing a little bit of lighting. Where does this put me? Deep in a forested area. Underworld Gate Challenge Tomb. There is quite a bit of noise in the forest. You'd kind of think that a outfit would exist to let you like see more things on the map or something.
I'll have to climb to make it across.
Yeah, I'm really going to just go through this whole thing as quickly as possible. Looking all around. This was, I think, some of the beginning of the introduction of the monster characters, which you noticeably have not really done enough with in the game. Yeah. It would have made so much sense to potentially take a step back and introduce the sounds and of those monster characters right about here, and then having chase sequences or fight sequences from this point, this point, this point, this point, this point, and just then you could use the monster characters as your equivalent to human people that you would fight. They could be fairly weak characters. We keep finding all these salvage things. So we really don't even know for certain that the monster characters that are being teased here with their bows and arrows are the same characters that we see later. Okay. See, I think this door here wasn't open originally. Let's see, I do think I missed something just like down here. I think potentially on the other side of this wall. I just don't know though. See, and I think this is just a shortcut to leave. Otherwise, we have to go way over here. Which I am noticing that there is something way over there. I'm pretty sure this is the way out. It's interesting that the gun was the weapon that was pulled out here when we've been doing everything as far as weapons. Yeah, we've been doing bow and arrows as far as weapons this whole time. Let's see. Can you make a crazy jump like this? Yes, you can. Maybe move just a little too fast. This would have been early in the game when we were experimenting with whether I wanted the white lines, which pretty obviously the white lines have proven to be very helpful. So that obviously was the right direction, and just in general getting to terms, getting grips with the terms as far as how this game overall is going to play. What was it? I don't know if I can actually get back to where I was though. There's that whole platform. It swings over that way. And then there's a whole platform that swings over here. And then this weirdly is the only point where you grab a white painted rod as much as you end up grabbing white painted other kind of handles everywhere else. Of course, the real danger here is if you're trying to get everything is that we're getting very close to just playing the entire game a second time. And it's not like I have the greatest of memory, so I wouldn't be. Let's see. Like, I really wouldn't be surprised if I don't remember the solutions. I'm fairly certain this is what you do, but I am not 100% certain as to why you do it. guess I was buying myself time to swing. And that seems to swing both directions, regardless of which way you pull it. I definitely wouldn't have been using the census mode as much at this point. My controller's vibrating quite a bit in this section, which is weird because it's actually been incredibly bad about having the controller vibrate. It's been very unnoticeable, at least. So it's either been extremely subtle or just non-existence on the vibrations. Each one of these tombs is potentially giving you more gold. Know if that's worth that effort, though. I am just going to now have a high level of gold in my inventory, which will lead to basically nothing. Like, there just won't be anything you can purchase after you've collected all the resources. Once I've gotten enough hides to upgrade everything. That's an example of leaving a tomb area and it taking too long to actually leave. So we're gonna run back this way. And then we're going to get into the long loading section. So I was trying to have a bit of a break here in which we would have run around the rest of the worlds and collected everything. And it's not working particularly well in that at this Cozumel, there is a treasure chest that we maybe just cannot collect. It might actually be in Cozumel Caves, in that you had to get it at the very beginning of the game, or it might have been in the city where the crashing was happening at the very beginning. You know, doing a New Game Plus and just walking around that city and seeing if it crashes makes a lot of sense after the credits. But then the next thought was to just storyline wise go here and try and get all the collectibles, and we're not accomplishing that either. Okay, we want to basically run to this next base camp and see if there's something around in this area. And then we're going to make it to like Kuala Lumpur, and that's where we'll start the next episode. There's a lot of stuff all over the place. A lot of animals. A lot of what looks like transition places. At some level, it might just be wiser to collect everything so that the hunting area becomes less full of stuff. So this is the transition to the next area. I'm hearing a sound. That kind of shows a great example of what your handgun would do as far as shooting and hunting animals. But you definitely aren't going to get refills on resources if you use your handgun. I have no idea how you'd actually reach that, if you are supposed to be able to reach it. I could see kind of rushing through this whole area and not collecting a supply cache. But overall it does kind of seem like it is just a area designed to be kind of round, so you can run around in circles while fighting the Empress Jaguar. Just generally looking around. This totally is where the first Jaguar fight was, I'm pretty sure. Okay, but I think I have looked in this whole area, and certainly seems understandable why there wouldn't be collectibles in that area. Which that then is just pushing us to the next section. Next section potentially can take you back to this hunting area. Is there a squeeze through here section? Nope, it looks like there would be. Still no good reason why you're having to hit the X button 3 times to mine. You'd think that there would just be an upgrade, a skill or something, to address the mining aspect. So in this little narrow section, this would be your last chance for like where a supply cache could be. We're not quite to Kuala Lumpur. But yeah, you're unlikely to really have anything in these narrow sections. This is a interesting spot in the game. Again, just doing a bad job of depicting what the actual game is, because we never get to this point again where there is kind of a modern ramshackle house outside of out of the village. If you told me this was like a quarantine house or something, that would make sense. But you'd think there would be some sort of equivalence in the Hidden City and in the Cozumel. We're just starting to see the beginnings of society. And now these would have all been areas where we probably were stealth killing people for the first time. I could definitely see where I may have just ran past this section. Although it would be very weird for there to be a supply cache in the still section. Yeah, you have Trinity introduced, which Trinity itself doesn't. No, I may not actually be able to go from this point to this point. I may have to just run very far back to a fast travel section. Because I think we crawled under this. Nope, you can just walk next to it. It weirdly is blocking the gate, but not really blocking the gate. More fast flowing water sections, which I guess the game was trying to emphasize that idea. I am getting a checkpoint save every time I collect one of these salvage boxes, and yet none of them are counting. Wow, you definitely would have thought there would have been something back here if you could climb up here. We never do that anywhere else either. Just weird. Little experiments, little ideas being thrown out here, and then I guess they just didn't receive enough general approval to be used later in the game. I don't know if I'm going to a secret area or if I'm going the right way. I think this is the right way. Again, it just doesn't really feel like there would be a supply cache here. If anything, I guess maybe we're seeing a lot of salvage things that are being respawned that would have been supply caches before, but maybe not. Yeah. And so then we are just
Can't carry
in
anymore.
Kwak Yaku. Well, in Kwak Yaku, there's a lot to collect, obviously. And there's a whole side quest, and there's a whole fire camp and mercenary to get resources to potentially move forward in this way. It's a real sad statement, though, that we may just end the game at 98%. We tried. We gave it a college try, but as far as I can tell, there is no supply cache on the map. And I've collected all the archivist maps that should be pointing out a supply cache somewhere. Yeah. So I would basically have to go to like an online guide or an online video, text or video guide. These clouds might be helpful if they weren't so much in the way, and the map would definitely be helpful if there was more going on there. Let's see, how far are we in the way of being done with the game, though? Last time we saved, we were at 82%. We're now at 84%, so we're not even really making a lot of progress on that aspect. Anyways, we've gone long enough. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to support me even further, there's some links down below in the description box. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.